Welcome to Inch online fashion designing class. Today we shall make a sample of slit opening. This is a small V cut mostly seen in kurtis. This opening can either be done on the center front or on the center back. If the opening is on the front, rollos and buttons can be attached. Rollos are nothing but the loops. So let us cut two pieces, one for the front and the other for the back. Mention the wrong side and the right side on all the pieces. So the length I have taken it as 9 inches and the width 8 inches. Slit opening can be done two ways, either separately or as shape facing. So now I have marked the opening on the wrong side of the front piece. So I have named it A and B. So this A and B is 3.5 inches. Go out 1/4 inch on both the sides from A, 1/4 inch on both sides, and draw a diagonal line to B. So this can either be 1/4 inch or 1/8 of an inch, which is less than 1/4. So totally this opening is going to be 1/2 an inch. Shape facing is nothing but attaching a facing strip to the neckline and stitching it to the shape of the neckline. So in a previous video we saw how to make a bias facing. Today let us learn how to make a shape facing along with a slit open. For this we need to cut a rectangular piece of facing material. The width of the facing is wider than the neck width by 1.5 inches or 2 inches on both the sides. So this is 1.5 inches or 2 inches on both sides of the shoulders, and the length 1.5 inches or 2 inches more than the opening. This should be long enough to stay inside the garment. Now we have to pin this up in position with right side facing the right side. So right side facing the right side, see to it is equal on both the sides and pin this in position. See to it the facing strip is a little above the shoulders. So if you want, you can draw the seam line, the stitching line for the neck. So now start with the back stitch. So stop on the diagonal line with the needle inside, raise the presser foot, turn the fabric and come down on the diagonal line. Come down to B and stop at B. So again with the needle inside, raise the presser foot, just give one horizontal stitch. Either one stitch or two is enough. So the reason why we are giving a horizontal stitch is when you're going to slit at the center, having a sharp stitch will be difficult for you to clip. So giving a horizontal stitch will help you to cut exactly at the center. So always have the needle inside before you turn the So when you're cutting a facing strip, never cut the neckline of the facing strip before stitching, because it becomes difficult for you to match the neckline of the facing piece and the main fabric. So it is always advisable to cut it as a rectangular piece, match it right side facing right side, stitch along the neckline, and then later this has to be cut. So now let me cut this to the shape of the neckline. So now the slit will be made only after stitching. Never cut a slit before stitching because it becomes very difficult to cut or stitch at the pointed edges. So always stitch and then cut at the center. So when you're cutting at the center, try to go as close to point B. Don't cut on the stitch. So now this piece has to be turned to the wrong side. So before doing that, we need to clip into the seam allowance. That is called notching. So notch the neckline at regular intervals. So on a straight edge, we don't need any clipping. Only on the curved areas, it has to be clipped. So now at this particular point where you have this angle here, you need to cut the seam allowance diagonally like this. Otherwise what happens is all this seam allowance will get settled inside, so you will not get a pointed edge. So this has to be trimmed diagonally. Wherever you have a pointed edge, it has to be trimmed diagonally. So now let us turn the facing piece to the wrong side. So most of them have an habit of turning out the edges using a pencil inside. So never do that mistake. So use a sharp edge, either a pin or a seam ripper, to take the edges out. So don't pull it too much out as the stitches might rip out. So do it slowly. You can use a pin also. So iron this out or crease it out well. See to it you don't have any creases or pull. So if you have a pull, it means it is not notched properly. So let us iron this out and keep it aside. Similarly, for the back piece, you need to cut out a facing strip wide enough, that is, it should be 1.5 inches or 2 inches more on both sides from the neckline, and then long enough to get into the garment. So this I have stitched it with right side facing right side, right side facing right side, and again I'm going to cut off the excess fabric at the neckline, notch it, turn it inside out and iron it. So this is how your opening looks after ironing. So this is the front and this is the back piece. Always remember, if the opening is wide, then reduce on the length of the slit. In few of the ready-made garments, the slit would be too long that it has to be altered with an extension piece. So for an extension piece, you need a rectangular piece of fabric. So fold it in half. It's a rectangular piece. Fold it in half. Stitch it on the top edge. Notch it. Turn it inside out. turn it inside out. Probably if you want, you can just stitch it to keep these two layers in position. And later decide on which side you want the extension piece and then pin it accordingly. So decide from where you want the extension piece to start. So just keep it in position and pin it up to the main fabric. And now we are going to top stitch this. So when you're giving a top stitch, don't top stitch on the other side also. If you're going to top stitch on this side, then you will not have any opening at all. So top stitch till this point and then raise the main fabric. Then just push the extension under, and now this piece is available for you to top stitch. So don't top stitch along with the extension piece. So you can have hook and eye, loops and buttons as you wish. In our next video, let us see how to join the shoulders using concealed method, and let us learn how to make rollos, that is loops, and fix it to the slit opening. Thank you.